Win the game. Easy lang with SportsPlus.
White Travel steps back into the game. What kind of impact can he make? And what a steal! That layup's gonna even up the game. E9 in the final moments of the game. Can they make magic? White Travel wins the game!
Win the game. Easy lang with SportsPlus.
White Travel steps back into the game. What kind of impact can he make? And what a steal! That layup's gonna even up the game. E9 in the final moments of the game. Can they make magic? White Travel wins the game!
Win the game. Easy lang with SportsPlus.
White Travel steps back into the game. What kind of impact can he make? And what a steal! That layup's gonna even up the game. E9 in the final moments of the game. Can they make magic? White Travel wins the game!
Win the game. Easy lang with SportsPlus.
Down for the count. Shoot.
Good evening mga ka-Sports Plus! Welcome to another episode of Sports Plus Insider, ang tambayan ng mga tunay na hoop junkies. Uy, tunay na hoop junkies. Ang nga po pala, si Coach Hammer Martin Antonio joining you today para sa isang special na basketball breakdown episode. And of course, big plays, real talk at konting kwentuhan. Ganito dapat ang sports show. Easy lang. Pero syempre, hindi masayang kwentuhan pag ako lang yung magsasalita. I have a good set of boys with me today. So, two of my closest friends, pwede ko na sabihin para kung mga pinsan tong ano, dahil laki ako kay Coach Koy. Coach JB Juan Banal on my right side, on my left side, Coach Ael Banal. Coach ka na rin ba ngayon? Pero mas sanay ako na daddy yung
Daddy.
tawag eh.
Oy, congrats.
Congrats, welcome
Recent
to
daddies kami.
welcome to
Second fatherhood.
second fatherhood para sa ating dalawa. Alright mga ka-Sports Plus, time to break it all down. Mamaya ko na pagkasasalitain si Coach JB kasi alam ko maraming baon to dahil ang ganda ng mga games natin. Time to break it all down. Latest mula sa Liga standings, check. At yung mga balitang hindi pwedeng palampasin. Let's check the scoreboard at tignan natin kung sinong teams ang tunay na gumugulong ngayon. Ito na ang NBA rundown. Unahin natin ang Miami Heat versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. Statement game for Cleveland, which ended the first round with a sweep 138-83, fourth largest margin of victory in NBA playoff history.
Coach Hammer, kailangan ko yata ibigay sa ito eh. Kasi may Ohio roots ka at yung Cleveland, you've been raving about the Cleveland.
Yeah, I've been
year in the wise words of Jalen Rose a couple of years ago. Walis.
Papahawa ko to kay Coach JB kasi gusto kong marinig ang na-input niyo. Unahin na kita, Ayan, since you brought the broom here on the show. Dala to ni Dino last week. Akala ko kulay black na yung dati. But how was this game for Cleveland? And gusto ko makita defensively.
Well, again, Cleveland has been proving to be the top tier team that they are throughout the season and even here in the playoffs. And talagang ito yung isa sa mga pag niligay mo sa akin yung lahat ng listahan ng playoff matches to begin the 2025 playoffs. Ito yung nasa unang listahan na asunto. Hindi dahil sa sa kahinaan ng Heat, diba? They're still rebuilding, ang dami lang transitions. Ganun lang katalaga kalakas yung Cavs. They are a front runner also in the East, NBA champion contender for this year, and talagang ang hirap talagang atakihin yung team na sobrang kompleto offensively and defensively, but also meron na silang emerged star na si Donovan Mitchell, and yun yung hinahanap nila at nandun, they're proving to be a really good team. 4-0 easy sweep for the Cavs.
Coach JB.
Well, there's a reason why they're number one, and then you have a really low ranking team in that sequence, diba? And Miami really, when Jimmy Butler left, you kind of felt already that things are not going well in that organization, diba? And you felt, and then you're up against the Cleveland Cavaliers that obviously is a both ends of the floor dominant team. They're number one for a reason, and I think efficiency. In Game 4 alone, they had 5 players scoring. Kasi a lot of people are saying, ang bata kasi nung team ng Cleveland, tapos ang ganda ng depensa, yung bigs nila, ang lalaki, kaya dumipensa sa perimeter eh. Yun yung malaking bagay si Gobert, mahihirapan ka makita maglaro ng depensa sa perimeter. Pero yung mga Jarrett, di ba? Parang ang galing niya, Jared Allen, ang galing nila dumipensa sa perimeter. So a lot of people are saying, galing nila defense. But, people are forgetting how potent offensively itong Cleveland Cavaliers. And natapat sila sa Miami na is still trying. You cannot, I know their unsung hero is Tyler Hero, pero it's not enough. When they were able to stop him, where did they go? Diba? Nobody else could step up. Obviously, it proved that Miami is a shallow team at this point. They were looking at the organization, revamping that. Coming to the next season, the early exit I think is beneficial to them as an organization in the long run. But they have midway this season, you lose Jimmy Butler. That's painful. That's di ba parang natanggalan ng tatay or kuya na tinitingala. Ang sakit nun, di ba? Para sa and for him to say that he's not happy in the organization, that's demoralizing. Buti nga nakaabot sila ng playoffs eh. But then natapat sila sa ganitong team. It was only a matter of time.
Question for both of you guys. Would the Darius Garland health scare injury concern be an effect here on their prolonged campaign in the playoffs?
Definitely. Darius Garland is an all-star. He's one of the pivotal players for the young Cavs team. Siya yung support. Pag off si Donovan Mitchell, siya yung kayang stumepap eh. Kaya niya maging facilitator, pero kaya niya mag-drop ng 40 points din pag kinakailangan. And siguro kalaban ng Heat, hindi siguro kailangan. Pero they're up against the Indiana Pacers in the next round. And they are not a joke. Nakita naman natin na tinalo nila yung Bucks. At hindi lang dahil sa kahinaan ng Bucks dahil nawala si Damian Lillard. Pero nakita natin na talagang mga dogs din yung mga Pacers. So hindi sila basta-basta matitinag sa next round. Paabot sila ng semifinals or Eastern Conference Finals last year, diba? And so, in-out nila yung Knicks. And so, the Cavs will really need a Darius Garland in the next round to, continue their campaign.
X Factor.
I'm still gonna go for Donovan Mitchell. For me, personally, I think he's gonna have to lead the team. He's always wanted this role, diba? When he was in Utah, he was always saying na, kaya nga naman he made this move eh. Diba? He felt like I need to be in a team that will go the distance because I feel like I'm built for something like this. I really think that he's kind of like a Jimmy Butler also in terms of his nature, his dominance, his ability to score. He's a real dog for the team, and I think whether the team will be complete or incomplete, he has to remain consistent, and I think it's going to be that person that they will look up to that can take them all the way. Hopefully.
Can Donovan Mitchell be the best player on a championship winning team? That's the big question for both of you.
Well, that's the next stage for him.
Exactly.
If you want to be recognized as one of the best in this league right now, because I think people are still not talking about him enough. Like people are still talking
underrated
about
ba, no? Parang underrated
even
ba
the
si Donovan
Cavs as a
Mitchell?
team, the Cavs as a team, parang they're still not getting the respect that they deserve and for being where they are. And I think as slowly they climb up the ladder in the East, that's when they will cement who they are and who Donovan Mitchell is in this league.
And the character of this squad has been a solid defensive team anchored by the size and length of their rotation. Na kahit si Donovan Mitchell is listed 6'2", wingspan 6'8". So let's go to our next matchup at hand. I picked this game for the Houston Rockets, but again, the Golden State Warriors proved that they have the better. And Jimmy Butler showed up with a big rebound against the threes that I expected to play really well. Final score was 109 to 106. Road win to take control of the series. Steph Curry, of course, hitting a clutch 3 with 19 seconds left. And Jimmy Butler made a strong statement for the Golden State Warriors, especially at the end of the game. Hanapin niyo yung video kung saan ni-rebound ni Jimmy Butler over everyone. Everyone. Okay? Over everyone yung offensive rebound din, which was very crucial in the dying seconds of the game. Fred VanVleet missed a chance to tie the game at the buzzer. So now, at the cusp of moving to the next round, ang Golden State Warriors. Panahin ko na yung resident Golden State Warriors fanboy natin who always picks them because of their heart-fake meron kang shirt sa akin na Golden State.
Ayan.
Pag
Gusto ko yun.
next meeting natin, naalala ko dahil I was looking at my stuff, nakabalot pa. Dahil hindi ako Golden State Warriors fan, si Ael ang dapat magsuot nun. So, Ael, how big was this win for Golden State?
It was huge because obviously sa it was a chance for Houston to tie the game, tie the series. And pag 3-1, statistically, parang it's in the bag na eh. Ilan lang yung mga times kung nasa iyo lang si Doc Rivers.
Shout out Dino Lee, sana pumunta ka ng Baclaran, 3-1 bukas State. Alright, continue.
Pero mga ka-Dub Nation dyan, mag-comment lang kayo sa chat. I wanna see all the Dub Nation fans out there. Well, at the end of the day, Houston Rockets they're gonna do whatever they can to not make it a 3-1 lead. Wala Playoff Jimmy showed up even though Steph Curry only had 9, 11 attempts, 17 points. The other players, Podziemski had
Hey, you're forgetting to mention one truth, which I think you would love to mention for the Golden State Warriors.
si Jimmy Butler.
Draymond Green!
Of course.
Of course, that's crucial stuff. I think that I think Ael and I we rode our coming to the studio and so
Hindi ba kayo nagsasawa mag-discuss?
actually ito ano na lang to laylayan na to ng pinag-uusapan namin yung laman talaga pero pinag-usapan nga namin how Draymond Green was very crucial. And kasi sinasabi nila, X-factor ba si Jimmy Butler? Di ba na kung hindi siya dumating sa Golden State, he wouldn't have turned, parang Golden State would not be in this kind of position. But I think Jimmy Butler coming into the Golden State Warriors has a lot to do with Draymond Green giving the green light and saying, he's that guy. Ael and I were talking about that Draymond Green called it. When Jimmy Butler came, he said, we're gonna win all the way. Called it that early. Called it that early. So he's seeing something that nobody else is seeing. And we were talking about it na, alam niya kung ano yung kaya niyang dalhin. Alam niya kung ano kaya dalhin ni Steph Curry. So ibig sabihin, alam niya kung anong nagkukulang sa team nila para lang makaraos sila. Para to get over the hump.
Yep.
And when Jimmy came, he said, I got this side covered, Steph's got that side covered. Now we have this guy covering this area of the game. And now we can go over.
Yung other facets of the game that Jimmy brings, toughness. Dati, ano to eh.
And I thought they were gonna collide. Si Draymond at si Jimmy, I felt like sasabog sila.
Alam mo yung sinasabi lagi ni Coach Pat Ryan, nabasa ko to sa book niya. You can recruit one crazy guy to your team, but if you recruit two crazy guys, they would start hanging out with each other or fighting each other. And it would dictate the culture of your team. Nangyari, naging big experience. So, makikita natin. And moving forward, I hope that... Okay. I hope that they would be more agile. But do you think the antics of Dillon Brooks, which is synonymous to his team, gave fuel sa Golden State?
Actually, honestly, I think it was the other way around. Bunti ka pa si Draymond Green. Nag-5 fouls na siya. Buti lang di siya nag-foul out kasi meron pa isang possession yun. Stinap niya si Shane Goon sa huli. But honestly, the Rockets, that's the only way they know how to play the game under Coach Udoka. Talagang tough, aasarin ka nila. They weren't doing anything out of the ordinary. I think mas na-motivate sila sa mga antics na ganun eh. Na-intimidate ng konti, na-rattle ng konti ang Warriors. Ang key factor lang talaga is wala silang superstar. Wala silang main player. Jalen Green yung inaasahan natin. And obviously, as a happy Filipino, we wanna support him. Pero 38 points a game 2 and everything else, single digit lang siya. So I really
Ako,
think
nakakuha ko ng notification. Alam mo yung nag-alarm pagka may bagyo, saka na may earthquake. Nag-alarm yung nag-alarm sa akin eh. Where's Jalen Green daw? Hinahanap si Jalen Green ng Houston eh. Hanggang dito umabot. Baka daw yung mga kamag-anak dito sa Pilipinas. Alam ko nasaan siya, nawawala eh.
Pero ako, nandun pa rin ako sa paniniwala ko na si Kelly Oubre, si Swaggy Poole, at saka si Jalen Green, pare-parehas na tipo ng player. Hindi ako mabibuild na team around them. Alright, some comments from our Facebook. Sabi ni Bonnie Flores, Go GSW! Yes, sir!
Yes, sir! Top Nation, Bonnie!
Rafael Pido, Tyler Hero for 3. Yes, 3 next season. Hopefully they build up. Marami silang pieces ngayon. David Mitchell looking impressive in that Miami uniform. Carol Barbadillo says, let's go Golden State! Pero Lakers in 7. Lakers in 9. Right.
Alam mo, si Dino, meron laging may shade kay Dino.
Hindi, kasi magkasama ako kay Dino.
Alam mo, magsama si Dino tsaka si Dwight Howard. Si Dwight Howard, sinasabi ni Dwight Howard, pag nanalo daw to si LeBron from 3-1, again, there shouldn't be a GOAT conversation daw. Kasi GOAT na daw si LeBron. Isa pa tong si Dwight Howard na nananaginip eh.
Manalo muna
Kasama
sila ng
ng
first
kaibigan natin si Dino eh.
Alam mo.
Nananaginip pa rin eh.
Nag-alert din ba sa'yo? Nag-message sa akin si Ant-Man eh. Pre, ready na ako. Sabi, right, sabi ni Louis Vern Santos, para kay Sir Ael, Rocket in 7 in Amen we trust.
Sir Louie, gumawa kayo mag-team building kayo ni Dino. At sa mga umaasa na mga game 7 pa rin.
Bukas, May 1, sakto. Pwede pa kayo mapul sa Boracay. Boracay, ha? Lawrence T. Steph, guts of a warrior, heart of a champion. And sabi ni Raf Barreto, Draymond Green, nananapak lang. Hindi naman siya nananapak, naninipa lang.
Naninipa lang.
Oo, siyempre, what?
Babagsak ng paa.
Oh, hindi naman sadya. Hindi naman sadya.
Nagkataon nandun yung tao eh.
Nakaharap.
Nakapak talaga si Draymond.
Sila yung inapakan yung paa niya eh, di ba?
Sila lumalapit eh.
Alam niyo walang laro Lakers ngayon. Pero ready yung mga Laker fans. Ako pinagdadasal ko lang talaga. For our talk show to have more fuel is manalo ang LA. Pero dapat Dino talaga. Magtiri ka bukas sa St. Jude na alas 4 ng umaga. Paano pag Badilio? Sabi niya, Labor Day, LeBron Day, Lakers in 7.
Grabe yun.
Dami.
Alam mo, madami.
Dami na iniwala.
May rin to si Dino eh. Following din to sa mga umaasa ng
Lakers Nation PH ha. Ito si Rafael. Bawi kami mga tol! Kami ni LeBron James. Sige tol. Text na lang tayo. Lakers in 9. Alright. Puntahan natin ito. Ito magandang game din to ha. The spread was 4.5. That was the spread. Tama ba? Tama guys. 4.5 yung sinabi sa aking spread. The game was 104.99 in the final 39 seconds. Nagbubuhat kami nito nung team ko. Nag-overtime. Sabi, ba't nag-overtime? Up 4 na. And then, Halliburton happened. Took care of business. Indiana edged Milwaukee. Closeout game, 119-118 in overtime to advance to the next round. Indy wins it 4-1. And hindi nga yung game na-overshadow nung post-game. Post-game, hindi nga antics conversation.
Or pop-up.
Yan. Sweet nothings na airpods ni...
Sweet whispers.
Sweet nothing. So, airpods ni Tyrese Halliburton went and had a meaningful conversation with Giannis. Dito tayo. Gusto ko to. Gusto ko. Kay Coach JB, kay Coach Juan. James.
Well, hindi ko alam kung tignan natin ulit yung picture. Hindi ko alam kung highlight.
Pero grabe.
Or
Dinikit ni Giannis yung noon niya dun sa
halftime kiss cam yata to. Hindi ko alam.
Konting ano lang yan. Konting...
Pero may nangyari kasi before this eh. Di ba? Nanalo na yung Indiana, tapos yung tatay ni Halliburton, pumunta sa harap niya, pinagpag yung tuwalya ng anak niya at itsura, di ba? And syempre, nagmura ng konti. Pero it wasn't directed towards Giannis. But I have to say, I listened to the post-game interview of both players. Giannis, I think, to be honest sa mga nanonood
To be honest.
tayo mga Pinoy, di ba? Talong pikon eh, di ba? Pag talong pikon talaga.
Hashtag to be honest.
Nagkataon, natalo talaga si Giannis at hindi niya nagustuhan yung mga nangyari, di ba? If it were any other person, I don't know how it's gonna react, but talo pikon. And napikon siya, sinasabi niya, kasi ako, pag nanalo ako, hindi ako magyayabang. Pag nanalo ako, hindi ko kukumpretahin ng gano'n. Hindi ako magmumura. Pag nanalo ako rin naman yun. Kaya daw sinabi niya, sobra na yun. Dapat hindi mo daw gawin yun. But it is what it is, di ba? Hindi ka nanalo. Ganun talaga. Di ba? You take everything and that's why controversial din naman yung interview niya last year, last time, di ba, na-out sila. At sinabi niya parang, it's, why are you saying that I failed? Diba? Because I lost the game, ano na ba ako? Failure na ba ako sa buhay? So obviously, Giannis is that kind of player. He's very sensitive. The media loves it because it's extra traction. Diba? But this time, he really spoke as if, in fairness naman, si Tyler Halliburton, sabi niya, I think mali yung tatay ko doon. Diba? Hindi niya dapat ginawa yun. But ultimately, pag nasa Pinas ka, pag talo ka, bawal ka pikon.
No. Tsaka walang natalo sa Pilipinas. Sa yung mga nanonood sa atin, walang natalo sa Pilipinas. 3 lang ang nangyayari. Pre, aabutin pa sana, naubusan ng oras, kahit 20 yung lamang. Pangalawa, pre, dinaya kami ng referee. Pangatlo, Brad, nagkagulo. Di natapos yung laro. Anyway, ito. Ael, ikaw, with that game of Indiana.
Ako, agree ako na I think throughout the series kasi mainit na to eh. Nung naglalaro pa lang, nung umpisa pa lang si Damian Lillard at si Haliburton, sinabi ko na ng previous episode, years ago, tinastrash talk na ni Haliburton si Damian Lillard, dinedame time niya na ng ganun ha. And it's all part of the game. And nakita naman natin kung gaano ka-physical yung series na to. And may mga moments din na tinatrash talk ni Giannis yung tatay niya. So it's parte ng game yan eh. Parte ng game bilang basketball player, ex-basketball player. It's whatever you can do to psych the player out. Yun yung ano. Ang akin lang is buti nga hindi pa napasama yung tatay ni Haliburton eh. Kasi pumasok sa support. Fan siya eh. Hindi siya player, hindi siya media, hindi siya staff. Fan siya pumasok sa court. Buti na lang walang ginawa sa kanya si Giannis.
Yep.
Pero it could have been anything. It could have been Malice in the Palace again. Kasi pumasok siya sa court. Hindi ka dapat nandun eh. Diba? Yes, panalo na yun everything. Buti wala ginawa si Giannis. Pero para pumasok ka sa cage ng Lion nun eh. Diba? Kahit ano pwede mayak ng ibang player. Isaiah Stewart. Or probably Russell Westbrook. Baka, diba, nasapak na. Or hindi ko na lang babanggitin yung gilas natin. Pero, di ba, pag pumasok ka doon, di ba, mayayari ka doon.
Hindi naman sadya yung sa gila.
Hindi
Hindi naman sadya. Nakita ko may tumalon doon sa gilid eh. Pati may upuan na lumilipad eh. Ano nangyari? Ano to? Okay, back to the ball game.
Hirap na.
There's always a certain level of respect that is commanded in competition. Gracious in humble in wins, gracious in defeat. Kasama yan. Pero syempre yung konting trash talk, sama din yan. So, pigon, talo, and kadalasan, pagka napipikon ka, lalo kang iinisin. So, it's going to be Cleveland and Indiana.
May unspoken rule pa rin na players don't approach, fans approach athletes, but players, as much as you can, maximum tolerance yun. Diba? You will bite your tongue. And we've seen so many local events already wherein those paths cross. Diba? It didn't end pretty for anybody. Diba? But as much as you can, as a player, it's part of diba? It's part of what you signed up for.
Yep.
Diba? So being able to approach the dad of Haliburton, I think they have that kind of relationship. Na kaya niya nagawa rin yun na alam nila, at the end of the day, hindi kami magsasalpukan.
Yeah.
Pero things have to be said. Diba? Kaya kahit pa paano, it ended well. Both acknowledged that we're okay, we're in a good place. Diba? So, yun lang, mag-move on lang sa yung Indiana.
Wala pa.
Nakaway ba sila? Galing ka na yata eh.
Wala
Yan
pa.
ang hindi nakikita dyan, magkakamay sila eh.
Oo.
Hindi. Ang nangyari kasi, itong part na to,
Yan na yun,
nagpa-viral, okay na sila dyan eh.
After
Nag-uusap na sila dyan na parang tapos nag-dab sila, okay na sila dyan. Yung before, yun nga, yung mini-wave, yung towel.
Pero walang sinasabi si Hanif dun eh.
Nakatingin lang ka, nakatingin lang.
Tinanggap nila. Pero after nung nag-ano na, binalikan niya.
Kasi yung mga nasi-share nyo na story, parang yung mga workouts sa mga nagpe-player. Gagawin lahat ng galaw pero hindi kasama yung pag-shoot kasi magiging mintes. So kailangan yung buong context ng message. Huwag yung masyado maraming
And
dito
ang tao ngayon,
highlight na.
Ang tao ngayon, ang hilig ngayon, for some reason, nagba-viral ngayon yung mga suntukan eh. Hindi mo lang na-highlight yung magaganda moves. Ang na-highlight na nagba-viral ngayon, yung mga kung saan nagra-rumble. Yun ang hinahanap eh.
Yun yung nasa algorithm mo.
Hindi.
Yun yung nasa algorithm. Diba yun yung naman sa algorithm?
Mga katropa na yun.
Parang ako lahat ng pang-shopping ng baby. Okay, kasama mo. Pagka may sale lang kaya pero lumalabas saya.
5 things to put them to sleep.
Oo, okay yung parehas yung algorithm namin. Okay, back to the ball game tayo. Cleveland, Indiana. What are the things that we need to look for here? Unahin kita, El. One matchup that you would like to see here in this series.
Two things I want to see. I want to see how further the Cavs can push their dominance. Number one. And number two, I want to continue to see Haliburton prove that he's not an overrated player. I'm loving it. I'm here for it. Nakita natin may statistic na lumabas, players voting only, na si Haliburton ay number 1 most overrated player in the NBA today. Siya yung sinasabi nila. And for him to beat a defending champion, previous champion na Antetokounmpo, di ba? Pinoprove niya na hindi ako biro. So gusto kong umabot to ng Game 7 eh, di ba? It's very chippy. It's true test, first test ng Cavs to sa playoffs. Hindi lang yung parang Heat, di ba? Ito Pacers talaga, matinding kalaban, and I hope it goes to a Game 7.
Ako, I think mas mataas yung kumpiyansa ng Indiana coming into this series because they did dispense of the Milwaukee Bucks, di ba? Yung Cleveland, parang there's nothing much really to benefit from beating Miami. So ako, I agree. And I think I'm rooting for Tyler Halliburton also in this series because I think it was really painful to watch him in Team USA where he didn't get much playing time. People forgot him and people were even saying, why is he even in the lineup? He's not much help. And so seeing his team make it all the way and hopefully beat, kasi grabe rin yun, di ba? For us, di ba, we want si Donovan Mitchell to cement his status by going all the way. But then you want Tyler Halliburton also, Tyler Halliburton to go all the way also to kind of say, look, I'm not a fluke. I'm not somebody that is overrated. I was supposed to be in that US team for a reason. And so I agree, a Game 7 is something that will be very exciting.
No, sinagot na tayo ni Tyrese. Narinig yata tayo. Overrate that. That was a tweet by Tyrese Halliburton. And of course, last play. Meron tayong video support. Tama ba? Ng last play, turnover ni Gary Trent.
Ang sakit nun.
Ang
Ito sakit nun.
This was right here.
Ayun na, last
Teka,
play
laki
ng
ko kasi.
Bucks. Lamangang Bucks, 1 point. Naku, lumusot sa...
Wide open. Teka, skip natin. Pwede ba natin i-replay ng isa pa?
Yeah.
Isa pa? Wala tayong telestrator. Wala tayong...
Meron!
Ayun! Meron pa, meron pa.
Ipapas mo.
Uy, meron pala! Short roll of the double! Wide open 3. Quick double here. Sa kabila, merong backcourt pass. Quick double on the middle. Quick double on the second pass. Wide open 3. Gary Trent is... Teka, ba't hawak ko pa itong walis ni Dino? If this was a catch, this is a clean shot.
Yeah.
Clean shot for Gary Trent, who is one of the better 3-point shooters.
He had 4 3-pointers in the
exactly.
fourth quarter.
Exactly.
33 points.
So,
Grabe.
this shot could have extended the series. Ang layo ng help side defender.
Wala.
Ang layo. So, that's more than 18 feet to
Right.
close out underneath.
And it could have been any other, like if he started even attacking, it would have created more. In other words, he was positioned to win
1,
this
2,
game. That's
3. Sino yung in-inboundan? 4 guys. That's a wide open shot. 4-on-1. 1, 2. Baka may isang tao pa sa corner. Let's run that play. Laging malilibre. Pero ito, it was an easy, clean shot. Ito lang yung gusto mong
Actually,
makuha.
pwede niya na hawakan yung ball na fa-foul kasi yung Pacers lamang sila 1 point. And so, talagang it happens to the best of us.
Buti na lang no, kasi yung telestrator.
Ayan,
Hinahanap ko to
pwede
kasi
natin.
sanay ako na pointer. But again, clean shot could have extended the series. But at the end of the day, ganun talaga. Hindi nahawakan ng maigi. Ang susunod na tanong dito, kasi maingay na pwedeng i-trade si Giannis Antetokounmpo if he's not happy. So, syempre, laging kasama dyan ng Lakers.
And bro, if I may add, unfortunately, si Dame Time, di ba? It was a miracle na nakalaro pa rin siya kasi si Wemby tsaka si Chris Bosh tanggal sila buong season. Nakabalik siya, pero at the price of an Achilles tear. So malamang sa malamang, out for the whole season next year si Damian Lillard. So si Giannis na naman mag-isa. So it's another incentive for Giannis to leave.
No, but it's also a desperate time for Milwaukee to offer the heavens and the earth to keep Giannis because they're gonna, if he steps out and he leaves, that's gonna put the Bucks again back to their dark ages.
And as what I always say and what I firmly believe, that decision involves a lot of zeros. Remember, kakapirma lang din ni Giannis ng extension. Sana, team, marami pa tayong ganito. Natutuwa ako mag-telestrator. I enjoy that. Dahil para tayo nagsischeme. Okay, back to the next game tayo. New York Knicks winning against the Pistons rather. Stunned the Knicks 106-103 at the Madison Square Garden to stay alive. Cade Cunningham stepped up late while New York's offense sputtered down the stretch. New York leads 3-2 and we will go back to the Detroit's home court with momentum at their side. What do you think, gentlemen? Coach JB?
For me, Cat is the key. I think he's doing such a good job in making this happen. And so, for me, momentum shifting, I don't know. I think they can pull this off all the way. Itong New York Knicks.
Yeah. Ako din, I don't think it was a momentum shift. I think it was a breath of fresh air for the Pistons kasi nag-survive sila. Malaking bagay ito para sa Pistons kasi now they have a chance to play at their home game and tie even the series. Kaso lang, I think nasa edge pa din yung sa Knicks kasi 'di ba parang nakikita natin this is one of the most closer matchups that we've seen all throughout the playoffs. Talagang neck to neck. Nung previous game hindi lang na-shoot ni Cunningham yung crucial shot, pero in this game he delivered. So ganun ka neck to neck yung labanan dito. It's one of the exciting and banggaan to. Siyempre, yung Pistons tinatry nila ibalik yung bad boy Pistons and hindi din umaatras ang Knicks. And so very very exciting tong game na to. I don't think the momentum has shifted. Pero nakasurvive ng isa pang game, live to fight another day ang Pistons.
Yeah, but again, it could be a one, pwede kasi magkaroon ka rin ng very good game kaya you won that one game, diba? But to win a series, you have to still solve the problems that you cannot seem to solve. And right now, for me, Karl Anthony Towns is a mismatch for them. Wherever he plays, maybe playing in the 4 position or in the 5 position, he becomes now a problem for the Detroit Pistons. And until they haven't solved that, then it can end soon.
Well, sabi ni Lawrence, the Knicks are the dark horse of the East to reach the NBA Finals.
I like that, Lawrence. I think when we started the NBA season dito sa SP, natanong ako kung sino nanalo sa trade between Julius Randle and Kat, and sinabi ko if there was a team na ma-out ang Celtics for the East, it could possibly be the Knicks. Siyempre, hindi pa natin alam nun kung ano gagawin ng Cavs throughout the season. But yes, I agree with you. The Knicks are the dark horse of the East.
Go.
No, I have a different dark horse. But when you say, kasi more or less yung East, you kind of anticipate already who's gonna end up in the top.
Yeah.
Diba? Parang, obviously, the next topic that we're gonna be talking about, the Boston Celtics, is heavily favored. I think the Cavs or the Indiana could end up there, and to even hope for a dark horse, that's quite a long shot because the pathway to that, it's not gonna be the easiest one.
Treacherous road right now because the New York Knicks are slated at the number 3 slot, and they would be facing, if they continue, the winner of that series would be facing the Boston Celtics, who rolled past the Orlando Magic 120-89. Uso tambakol ngayon to punch their ticket to the East semis. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown combined for a smooth offensive showing as Boston's playoff experience overwhelmed a young Orlando squad. Boston wins the series 4-1. If you're Boston, who would you rather face? New York or Detroit?
If I were Boston, I'd go Detroit, right? I think New York is, yes, they're not the dark horse, but they're a threat, right? You cannot disregard a Jalen Brunson, and you cannot disregard a Karl Anthony Towns in that lineup. Detroit, I think, will be manageable if you're just going to talk about, being able to outmatch Detroit. They don't have the experience that they can bank on. Just the firepower of the Boston Celtics is tremendous. So I think if I were Boston, I'd go Detroit. I think it would be an easy, similar outcome.
Ako Detroit din. I think Detroit doesn't have enough firepower to match up against a team like Celtics. They would just roll past the Pistons. So if I were the Celtics, pipiliin ko ang Detroit.
Ako gusto ko rin Detroit kasi gusto ko yung matchup na Peyton Pritchard, Malik Beasley.
I know.
Give Malik Beasley the 6th man of the year.
Oh.
18 a game.
He's putting up Steph Curry 3-point numbers. So
Ay, yun lang yung tinitira niya eh. Nakita mo ba yung mga dribble handoff? Wala
yung celebration niya.
Same.
Yeah.
Wala tayong telestrator. Ang ganda ng mga highlights niya because in the NBA, saan ba yung triple cam natin? Ito, no? In the NBA right now, this season, he is number 2 when it comes to 3-point shot attempts on the move. On the move, that's coming off pin downs, it's coming off screen aways, and siya rin ang isa sa top 3 shooters when it comes to creating your own 3-point shots. Silang dalawa lang ni Steph yung gano'n. So, ako, I wanted Malik Beasley just because of the... Right-handed pala siya.
Napigan siya.
Kasi yung swivel ng hips sa baseball yun eh, di ba? They loosen their hips before they hit.
Pero kasi naman ginawa naman kasi sa harap. Pero pigot nga naman kasi yan.
Kasama. Alright, so we go, ito sa West. ito yung mga gulpihan na series. Ang laking pasasalamat. Na-announce naman na MVP si SGA. Hindi pa, no?
Hindi pa.
So, dapat si Jokic ang mag-MVP sa kanila. But again, the Oklahoma City Thunder should be thanking all the gods for this matchup because the winner between the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Clippers would be going into a dogfight in that series just to match up with the Thunder.
A bigger dog.
Oh, hindi pero
With the
kasi
biggest dog, actually.
Grabe
yeah.
gulpihan tong game na to. And I was watching it kanina. Hindi ako nakikinig sa meeting. Hindi ako nakikinig kanina sa meeting kasi ito yung nagpe-play sa dun sa restaurant.
Huli ka.
So nagmi-meeting kami, nagno-notes ako kunwari, pero nanonood ako kasi alam ko i-discuss natin. I mean, the Nuggets and the Clippers, they are built for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the big guns show up. Jokic and Jamal Murray with a playoff high 43 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. Jokic with a triple-double. Aaron Gordon again providing a lot of firepower. Interestingly, hindi maganda yung nilaro ni James Harden kanina. Towards the latter part of the game.
Interestingly?
Interestingly.
I thought it was in true James Harden.
No. Na-overcome na niya yung last season. Pero again, he has been solid the past few games.
Of course.
Kawhi would always be Kawhi, and he would be
But
the
would
Terminator.
would you have anticipated that the Clippers would have played this way? Because I know they were apparently they were favored coming into this
No,
series.
they are.
I know, but would you have anticipated that this kind of Kawhi would show up?
Yes.
Would you have
yes.
anticipated
Basketball
this?
of games, yes.
Tsaka feeling ko kasi nasa kontrata ni Kawhi na I would only make money when I play in the
Yeah,
playoffs.
yeah.
This guy,
Right.
kids, watch Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs, not in the regular season,
Right.
not in Team USA.
Right.
Watch him in the playoffs, the way that he battles off screens, the way that he contains his man, the way that he
Picks his
pressures,
spots. Yeah.
pressures, and the way that he gets his shots against defenders. Parang mga Kobe, Michael Jordan.
But you would have to agree with me that people forgot about them for a certain
Oh, definitely,
period.
No.
definitely.
Yeah.
They were writing them off.
Correct. That's right. And then you have Russell Westbrook actually playing a really good season. The spotlight of a comeback is more on Russell Westbrook. People were hoping that a Jamal Murray would show up also because again medyo na-relegate siya sa sidelines with the other guys stepping up, diba? But then people kind of felt like, oh, would Kawhi still be the same? Would James Harden obviously he was kind of carrying. Wala namang ibang aasahan. But when Kawhi showed up, you're like, no way, this is the Kawhi. This is Kawhi. He still has it.
Oh.
He still has it. And kasi titingnan mo sila na yung mga veterano sa liga eh. Alam mo nang they have 1 foot out of the of the league eh. Diba? Alam mo nang i-eclipse sila. But then they show up again in this series. And Denver is really not sure they may move into the next round with this kind of LA Clippers.
And to quote the great philosopher Sean Carter for Kawhi Leonard,
Again.
allow me to reintroduce myself. That's what he did in that series. And endgame lapses, ganun lang din. Kasi may malaking run in the third quarter ang Denver, kaya medyo lumayo ang score, which nahirapan na rin.
This could have been an easy 3-1.
Yeah.
Easy 3-1 in favor of LA Clippers.
In game.
LA Clippers. It could have been baka nga ma-sweep pa in favor of the LA Clippers. It could have been an easy that. That's how closely fought this series was and closely nagkamali. I felt so bad with that Aaron Gordon dunk.
Oh.
Because that box out.
Sino ba yun nandun sa ilalim?
James Harden.
Si James Harden ba?
You gotta be kidding me. But
In
then,
true James Harden form.
diba? So it would have been went differently. This series could have been a different story that we're talking about. We could have been raving about how the LA Clippers swept itong Denver Nuggets. It just so happened that those major little one-by-one plays
Details.
in the fourth quarter that spelled why the series is what it is today.
No, yan yung nagpa-champion sa Mapua. Miss box-outs ng kalaban. Nakukuha na nila ng rebound, kaya nag-champion. Alright, so, man, on a lighter note, Shaquille O'Neal has joined the Sacramento State college to in Division 1 as the general manager of their basketball program. His son, Shaquille O'Neal, also transferred to play under Coach Mike Bibby. One thing is for sure, if you're playing for Sacramento State, you won't fight the head coach. Please Google Mike Bibby and look at how he looks like now.
Not
Now,
before.
now.
Not before. Si Mini-Me dun sa
Hindi,
Austin Powers.
grabe yung, parang naka-TRT si
Oo. Grabe.
Gayot eh. But again, it's a good development.
I think that was the really good move. I think Shaq would do such a good job. I mean, for all that we watch him and Charles Barkley and Jet all talking about, Shaq is a successful businessman. He's good in the back end. And so he's he's mentored by so many. He has a doctorate, for crying out loud. This guy cannot be underestimated with managing a team. He knows what it takes to win, and so that's good for the team. And then you match it with the Mike Bibby in the lineup. I think they might do well in that organization.
Siya isa yung crucial dito. With Shaq being the general manager, one thing that is needed to build programs, the NIL packages. And with Shaq being part of the fold, it's easier to get to corporate sponsorships to sponsor the basketball program. And
Shaq,
diba? He is Shaq and he is synonymous to brand recognition. And I've seen one of these clips na sinabi that if you're thinking that Shaq is the most fun guy and the most loving guy, multiply that by 100 times, that's who he really is. So ganun katindi yung magiging effect niya para dito sa program.
So Shaq in his GM era, will we see it in,
I'm
in
more
the professional
excited.
stage?
I'm more excited of him being a GM than when Michael Jordan became a GM. Owner. Kasi I felt like just MJ is very highly competitive, but to understand the landscape, I think Shaq did his due diligence. He's ready for this role, and he can climb up the ladder eventually. Maybe we can see him in a bigger organization being part of that.
All right, so congratulations are in order for the few award winners this past few days. Steph Curry named Teammate of the Year.
Woo! Meron pa lang ganun.
No contention. Draymond Green wins the NBA Hustle Award. Dapat boxing gloves yung
Kicking award.
And of course, Peyton Pritchard.
Ay,
NBA
ako na lang mag-announce ito.
Ikaw na mag-announce yan.
NBA, Peyton Pritchard bagged the NBA Six-Man of the Year, contrary to
Malik Beasley!
Jalen Brunson, the clutch player of the year. I completely agree also with that, what he has done.
And one thing that I called during the start of the season, that Evan Mobley will be a defensive monster. Rightfully so, he is the NBA Defensive Player of the Year. Don't look at the steals, don't look at the blocks, watch the games.
Why? He can guard.
He can guard everyone.
Correct.
Even the guys who are working at the concession stands. Ganun katindi. Yun the thing. And of course, Stephon Castle winning the NBA Rookie of the Year. We're waiting for Coach of the Year and MVP.
Guys, that's deadly, no? Consecutively, the Spurs has won the Rookie of the Years in Wemby and then Stephon Castle.
Oh, tapos they
There's
had
something brewing
Yeah, and then
in San
now-
Antonio.
What, they're tanking? No, just
No,
kidding.
no, they might be. They might be. Then
Dapat na?
Hindi, yun
Because
nga eh.
nagtatank sila?
Tatlo eh, di ba? I mean, of course, we're sending our love to Coach Greg Popovich and the whole NBA and basketball family, sending him all our love for him to recover soon. Kasi they would either get Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, or Cooper Flag. And if you watch the NCAA tournament, nasa na camera ko? If you watch the NCAA tournament along with us, ang daming talent who played in big programs, especially in the Final Four and in the Elite Eight, that would fall into the second round. That would be undrafted free agents. That would get an opportunity for these teams. And if there's one team that banks a lot on those undrafted free agents, shout out Captain Jack. Ganyan yung mga tinatayaan nila, which is the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, and parang they've been in the cellar for quite some time now.
Yep.
We haven't heard their name really being spoken of, the organization-wise. And so a lot of Spurs fans are loyalists
Yep.
talaga. And so we're excited for them, what's gonna come out. I mean, Cleveland, pumotok sila nung hindi naman nila kinuha yung mga ganyang rookie. Nung kumukuha sila naman, nung nandun sila sa bottom, nagpipick sila ng mga top drafts, never sila nakapivot talaga to
Si Anthony Bennett,
But-
number 1.
Correct! Di ba? But tong Spurs, abangan nyo. They're like what Ael said, something's brewing.
Yeah, the last time they picked two big rookies was David Robinson and Tim Duncan, and look how that turned out.
Yep, dahil second round pick si Manu Ginobili at last pick sa first round si Tony Parker. Alright, okay mga ka-Sports Plus, tapos na tayo sa balita. Ngayon naman, oras na para magbitaw ng bigat. Walang safe zone, walang segue. This is where instincts speak louder than stats. Okay, hot takes tayo. Welcome to Hot Takes. Real talk lang dito, walang palusot, walang takot.
Okay, Coach, ako na muna magtatanong sa'yo dito sa hot takes natin.
Okay.
Ready ka ba? Ready ka ba?
Already, alam mo
After
always ready ako eh.
that 4-0 sweep ng Cleveland, do you think the Cavs really have the finals material?
Oh yeah, they are. They are ready for the finals provided that they can impose their defensive will against their next opponent, which is the Indiana Pacers and whoever, well, Boston eh. And this, parang si Thanos yan eh, they are inevitable. Yung Boston-Cleveland matchup, they have to defend the three-point shot, which is the hardest thing to defend right now with the way that the schemes, the size, and the talent that the Boston Celtics have. There is only one thing that they need to focus on, that's the next game. And if they're able to take care of business there, tsaka na nila alalahanin itong Boston Celtics.
Coach Hammer, meron akong offensive. Usapang IQ muna tayo.
Okay.
Meron akong naniniwala ako na pag nagtapat ang Cavs tsaka ang Celtics sa Eastern Conference Finals, matatalo ang Celtics. At if there's a team that can do it, it's the Cavs. And here's why.
Why?
Okay? Last year yung nag-champion yung Celtics. All across the different rounds of the playoffs, hindi man lang umabot ng Game 6 or Game 7. Puro Game 4, Game 5, 4-1, 4-0. Fresh na fresh ang Celtics. The Boston Celtics they have the best two-way starting five in the league. Kaya sila nag-champion pero wala silang bench. At 3-point shooting team sila. At may suspect sila sa injuries in Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford. Tingin ko, pag umabot ng Game 6 or Game 7, magfo-falter ang Celtics. Hindi pa nila natitikman yun eh. Mapapagod sila, hindi sila makakashoot ng maayos sa Game 6 Game 7. Suspect si Jason Tatum at si Jaylen Brown on Game 6 and Game 7. At ayoko na sabihin yung last time. Baka may mga injuries na mangyari.
Baka umabot ka pa ng Game 9 yan, para kang Lakers.
So you have to understand, you're still up against a champion team.
Yes.
That you cannot, I mean,
That hasn't been tested in Game 6 and
but
Game 7.
Orlando did bring down the 3-point at made shots of Boston, and yet this is the result from 48 to 33 per game. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's minus 15 3 points, and yet this is where the Boston Celtics ended up in. And so I think it's more of pressure on Cleveland.
Yeah.
To prove themselves against a champion team. If they do succeed, then you can count them as like, para na rin sila nag-champion. Kahit hindi sila mag-champion ng national, para na rin sila nag-champion pag nag-champion sila ng East. Kasi malaki. Correct.
Okay. So, Ael, ako naman na may tanong sa'yo. Okay, let's answer lang. Golden State pulled off a gutsy win in game number 4. Pero looking at this team now, do they still look like a title contending roster? O last dance na yan?
Or last dance.
Tissue!
Hindi. Paalala ko sa... Pro team, pag kaming tatlo po yung magkasama, nag-overtime talaga kami. Kasi madaldal talaga kaming tatlo. Ael, last dance na ba yun ang team mo?
Do they look like a title contending roster to you or is this the last dance? Ano nangyari sa last dance? Di ba nag-champion sila? Bago sila nag-exit?
Oh.
For me, ito nga I would love to have a connection with Draymond Green.
Laban talaga yan!
Alam mo, ito.
Laban talaga yan!
Papariling ko lang ito bago niya ituloy ang statement na yan. Nung pinagchichismisan na si Jimmy Butler pupunta sa Golden State. Ayaw niya pumunta.
Hanapin yung resibo dun sa group natin, ha?
Aaminin ko, hindi ko gusto. Tingin ko hindi fit, di ba? Tingin ko si Jimmy Butler was having his issues then, di ba? Pero ito yung, this is what changed for me. Nagkaroon ng interview si Draymond Green at sinabi niya magcha-champion sila this year. Yes, Draymond Green is emotional. But he also has a great basketball IQ. And yun nga gusto ko sabihin, gusto kong makahanap ng, kung posible lang, no, Draymond Green gusto makausap sa phone. Kasi hindi niya sasabihin to sa live eh. Tatanong ko siya, ano yung nakita mo for you to say that na magcha-champion kayo this year? Kasi hindi naman ganun kalakas yung lineup niya eh. Diba? Ano yung nakita mo? I have a strong feeling that they were struggling all these years, in particular this year. Meron silang problema na hindi masolve-solve. Tapos pumasok si Jimmy Butler at nagkaroon sila ng light bulb moment. And sinabi ni Draymond Green, na-address tong issue na to, wala yatang makakatalo sa amin, kaya yata namin mag-champion. And I think they don't have a title contender team because they had Kevin Durant back then, di ba? Compared to that, di ba? However, I think they have a big shot to win the NBA champion. The NBA championship this year. So,
Banal
Di-
talaga
di-
apelido nito.
hindi ko sasabihin na Lakers in 7, pero di ba? Golden State to win the
Ganyan uncle nyo pag tumitira kami ng medium range jumper. Budget! Good shot!
Good shot,
Pag na-shoot, good shot. Okay, Juan, para sa'yo, after the Denver's Game 5 win over the Clippers, can we say that despite the postseason coaching change, okay, and GM change on the Nuggets, sila pa rin ba ang dark horse?
That was such a risky move for the franchise to make those changes coming into the playoffs. But then, I think the bigger dark horse is not actually, contrary to what people think, not the Denver Nuggets, but the LA Clippers. I think, in my personal opinion. I mean, how can you call the Denver Nuggets a dark horse when your supposed... I agree with you. I know SGA shouldn't be. I feel like Jokic should have been delivering an MVP caliber performance, averaging triple-double. I think with him in the lineup, you can never say they're the dark horse. And then you add Russell Westbrook into the mix of that. I think they're not the dark horse. I think it's the Kawhi Leonard squad that could be a dark horse. And so I don't agree. I think that it was such a big risk to take to make those changes, but obviously, okay naman. It seems like they're doing okay. After those major changes, kala mo, lalampasuhin na eh. But no way. They're doing well because they still have a stat lineup. But then, I think the bigger dark horse for me will be the LA Clippers. And that's such a good... Salbayan na natin yung last dance na yan. Kung if I may sakyan. Yung Golden State Warriors, we want that last dance, right, for them. You want that last dance for LeBron James, but then you kind of want that last dance also for Kawhi and also for Harden, di ba? So, yan yung panahon, well, ako for me, yan yung isang era that's about to end. And you kind of wanna come up with like 10 documentaries just featuring how this era is about to end, and you want to end it on a high note. So I think they're the bigger dark horse.
Well, but at the end of the day, I'm not into dreams. I'm into nightmares, and the Thunder is waiting to end all these guys' dreams. Kaya ikaw, the only emotion that you would feel at the end of the day, emotional damage. Yan ang gusto ko. Mainit, diretso, walang paligoy-ligoy, tuloy-tuloy ang tabangan dito sa SportsPlus Insider. Let's keep it rolling ngayon naman. It's time para magpalakasan, mag-utakan, at magpagalingan. It's time for Hula Hoops. Dapat ganun yung graphic natin, di ba? Yung kay... Dito sa Hula Hoops, we roll the ball, make the call, at syempre test our instincts bilang tunay na hoop junkies. Of course, our mechanics are 5 questions, multiple choice, lahat umiikot sa NBA awards history. Kailangan lang pumili ng tamang sagot, pero hindi lang basta hula. Dapat may dating ang diskarte nyo. Sino manalo sa pre-game challenge gets the first pick. Yung kulelat sa points ba? Talo, lusot. May lusutan, baka siya pa.
Lusutan tayo dito.
Okay. We've got 15 seconds to shoot as many ping pong balls as you can in the baskets.
Dito, diba? Dito. Yeah.
So ano gagawin? Ito shoot
May angulo
natin.
dyan, yan.
Oh. So kayong dalawa.
kami,
Pares kayo walang shooting.
Nako, patay.
Mana kayo kay Kuya Tantan. Okay.
Bawas slam dunk, no?
Yan, maybe once you get into the
Pwede ba
baskets, yung may pinakamaraming na shoot gets the first pick sa Hula Hoop segment natin today. Okay, ready in 3, 2, 1, go!
Malik Beasley.
Wala Wala shooting! Yun sa!
Oy, lumabas! Counter mo yun!
Kailangan soft touch, dalawa!
Floater pala to, floater.
Oh, sangin na.
Pinoy step na. Oy!
Smart
Pinoy step.
picking.
Uy, pasok yun ah.
Okay?
Layup ako eh.
3, 2, okay, ubus na! So, ang unang bola, 1 and 2, 2 points for Ael and... Sabi ko na banal to 1 point
Ano
for...
may layup finger roll na yung ginagawa ko eh.
Grabe.
Floater.
Mukhang talagang tinuruan kayong dumepensa ng airpods nyo tsaka ng tuhin nyo. Okay, so first question would be for Ael. Okay.
Ito na yun.
Okay, question number 1. Among the choices below, which NBA team drafted the most Rookie of the Year winners since the NBA-ABA merger in 1976? Go!
I'd pick A. Wala akong maalala na Rookie of the Year ng Lakers. Magic?
Oh, ako
Magic lang.
Ang naalala ko sa
A.
Spurs.
So pag, ang correct answer,
Ayan. Ang Rookie of the Year ng Spurs ay si David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and recently si Wembanyama
And then
and
yan,
Stephen
Stephon
Castle.
Castle.
Okay.
Yes.
Tama? Wala akong notes ha. Walang notes on top of
Let's go.
my head.
wala nag-rookie of the year sa LA.
Wala nag-Rookie of the Year sa LA
Puro
kasi
MVP
Direct
kasi.
hire.
lahat ng player nila binili.
Direct.
Parang yung mga team sa college na alam ko. Binili yung player. Okay, question number 2.
Hindi nagde-develop doon, bawal.
Oo, para walang player development. Para dito kay Coach JB, sinong NBA player na ang nanalo ng Rookie of the Year at MVP sa iisang season? Letter A, Bill Russell,
Bill Russell
or
ako
letter B, Wes Unseld? Final answer.
Bill Russell ako dyan.
Okay.
Hindi, wala yung isa eh.
The right answer is Wes Unseld. Hindi ko kailangan ng notes. Pumunta yan sa Pilipinas. Rookie of the Year MVP for the Washington Bullets. Kinuwento ng tatay ko yung mga kwento ng mga tambay sa Cubao.
Benji, paras yun eh.
Kayang bantayan. Kaya raw bantayan.
Benji, paras yun eh.
Pre, kaya daw bantayan ni Abit Gidabin si Wes Unseld. Tinambakan tayo ng 50 sa exhibition game. Hanapin nyo yan ha. True story yan. Pumunta rito yung Washington Bullets when they won a championship.
Bird
Okay.
won.
So Larry Bird won both awards in his career. Rookie of the Year. Marami na to. Rookie of the Year and MVP but not in the same season. Alright, which player was first to win NBA MVP unanimously?
Walk out na.
Well asked, Ael Banal.
B, Steph Curry.
Si Steph Curry nga ba?
Ay na, lumusot na.
Tama.
Yes!
The only player who won MVP unanimously, first one, was Steph Curry in 2016 dahil merong vote, I think this was in 96, merong isang vote si
Michael
it was,
Jordan.
hindi si Michael Jordan in 96, it was
May
Carl
galit- may galit sa
Malone.
kanya.
May galit siya
May galit sa kanya.
may isang media vote. Okay, score natin 2-1. Next question.
Ito to, ano to?
2-0.
Dino, this is for you. Come from behind, parang LA Lakers.
Lakers in 7.
Lakers in 9. Who is the youngest player to ever win an NBA MVP?
Oh!
Uy, mahirap to. Mahirap.
Ilang seconds to? Walang time?
Hindi, bibilangan na kita. Pag bibigyan kita, wala ka pa na-shoot eh. Oh. Derrick Rose, letter A, or LeBron James, letter B? Mahirap. Ikaw na, hindi mo rin alam?
Alam ko. Pero
Ako,
sinasabi lang mahirap para hindi
Pero
nyo.
mahirap.
I'll go with Derrick Rose for this.
Alright, and that is the right answer. Derrick Rose, 22 years old when he won the MVP. This was the year that they launched the sneaker line of the lightest shoes of his
Crazy
brand.
Night.
Jordan
Crazy
isa.
Night.
Jordan
Then the
tuloy.
following year, hindi Rose one na suot niya. Alright, next question. Ayan, at 11.
Question 5.
Which player has the most MVP awards in NBA history? Letter A, Bill Russell, or letter B, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Hirap to.
Hirap yan.
Junmar Fajardo. Oh, tama, walo, di ba? Junmar
Sabi
Fajardo,
siya,
walo.
Benji Paras dun sa rookie MVP. Hindi ba counted yun?
Yung chat.
Ten,
Tulungan niyo naman ako, chat.
oh, help chat, walang help na
Wala
chat.
akong phone a friend.
Rings Bill Russell pero MVP. MVP si Magic. Sige, pipiliin ko na lang si
Junmar Fajardo.
Bill Russell.
Bill Russell, and you're absolutely wrong. It's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with 6 MVPs.
3 decades.
Oh,
Tama,
3 decades.
tama,
He
tama.
won MVP with the Lakers and of course with the Bucks when they won that championship.
Yeah.
Yung mga sports kasi iba, dapat magpadala kayo ng mga question. Gusto ko yung mga question nyo na NBA, yung mga rapid fire yung nanggagaling sa mga audience natin. So next time na ako, ang
Fast talk,
pag,
mga fast
pag
talk.
itong mga itong panel natin pinaupo ako ulit as a host. Alright, grabe yung mga ka-sports plus, ibang tensyon. Iba rin ang tapang at syempre may nanalo at may natamaan.
Uy, bakit? 3-0
At
Guys,
ano kayo lusot?
Let it be on record 2-0 na ako sa...
Wait, ano ba score?
2-0!
Eh, nakadalawa ako.
Dalawang
2-2.
isa. Isa
Yes,
lang.
wala.
Hindi.
Kala ko pag mali siya, tama ako.
Hindi! Kailangan, hindi ka pwede
Hindi,
mali.
pero
Tama,
yung
pag
mali mo,
mali yung
tama
sinagot
din
mo.
ako
Mali talaga.
Yung mali mo na question 2, tama point ko.
Dapat may,
3-2.
dapat meron tayong,
3-2.
dapat meron tayong, ano.
Hala ko, sorry, Dino.
Para tatlong tanong
Parang
din.
LA mo lang, Dino.
Hindi,
Hindi
Lakers,
magkakambal.
Hindi, dapat may pang-anim tayong tanong.
Yeah.
Oo, dapat may pang-anim tayong tanong.
Ano yun?
Okay ba yun? Mga nakahawak kayo ng
Ano ba
internet.
ba?
Okay.
Hirap naman.
Sino ang kauna-unang high school player na na-draft sa NBA? Ako na nagtanong.
Wait,
Nabili-
multiple choice mo, dalawa.
Hindi, bigyan niyo ako ng question. Dalawa yan eh.
Unang high school player.
Unang high school player.
Di ba si Kevin Garnett?
Hindi. Hindi ko rin alam, kaya ako nga tinanong sa kanila. Anong score natin? 2-1.
3-2.
3-2 na ba?
3-2.
3-2 na? Sinalo ka na kahit walang masagot mo eh.
Oo,
Talo ka na.
Pag tama ako, 3 all.
Pag tama ka, plus 5 pa. Sinasagot mo. Hindi si Kevin Garnett.
Hindi ba si...
Hindi si Kevin Garnett. Hindi si Kevin Garnett.
4-2.
Sino ba nauna? Kobe o Kevin Garnett?
1962.
Sangin na. Wala, layo yan.
The broken record. Kaya na allow yung ano. Sino? Merge, sino? Si?
Reggie Hart.
Dahil sa hardship rule.
Lulusot na
Yan.
ako kasi hindi
Pwede
ko
sila.
naalala eh.
Kaya nga mahirap kasi palulusutin ka na. Di ba? Yun yung random question. So, palusutin na natin to si Alright,
Lusot ako, lusot ako.
Okay.
Saan to saan siya lulusot?
Okay.
Kasama.
Hindi ako sisama kasi ako yung game master eh. Grabe. Grabe kasama yung prod team. Ganda pa naman nung penny mo na sapatos ha.
Kaya mo na hindi lumulusot ah.
Buti na lang, hindi ako pa. Alright! Okay, bago tayo ba?
Okay. Dino!
2-0.
Dino, hindi mangyayari yung LA mo yung ano. 7.
Alright, mga ka-Sports Plus, subukan nyo rin sagutin ang mga tanong, predict the next big move, at damhin ang init ng laro. Visit nyo na ang sportsplus.ph para makisali sa kwentuhan. Ito yung gusto ko sa panel natin. Competitive pero game lang. Pati yung pinapahanap sila. Reggie Harding, Spencer Haywood nga yung sasagot ko doon. Pero competitive pero game lang. Pero speaking of games, hindi pa tapos ang aksyon sa NBA. Let's take a quick look at the next playoff matchup sa dapat nyong abangan. Thursday, Game 5 for the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. The Warriors looking to close out the series. They're leading 3-1. It will be at 7:30 a.m. And ito yung crucial. Minnesota versus the LA Lakers at 10 a.m.
Lakers in 7 nga ba?
Shout out to Dino, Lakers
Dino!
in 7. Grabe exposure mo, Dino, sa sa Sports Plus ha. Ikaw lagi.
Contrary to
Siya lang,
ano eh.
oo, siya lang, ikaw lang ba yung Laker fan sa atin? Siya lang ba?
Sino ba ba Laker
Oo,
fan?
kasi ako sabi ko nga, die easy fan ako kung sino yung nanalo doon ako fan. New England lang ako. Alright, so those are the games. Ay, si Merch?
Si Merch. Lakers yan.
Merch, Lakers ka?
Isa ka pa!
Lakers in
Pag
7
natalo,
din
lusot
yan
kayong dalawa ni Dino ha.
Hindi,
Lahat ha, buong
pagka
ano,
ito ha,
buong crew lahat ha, lusot
mga
kayo ha.
SportsPlus Insider natin ha. Pagka nanalo Lakers in Game 7, magsusuot kami ng LA, nakadilaw kami ng kami. Pag pumasok na next round, pag Dinoy ko, pasasayawin namin kayo ni Merch. Parang maligisi. So, on Friday, it will be Game 6 for the New York Knicks against the Pistons. That will be at 7:30 a.m. And Denver Nuggets looking to close out this series. Game number 6 would be at the Clippers. So, Denver and Clippers. Then, fast forward. Ito yung mga matchups natin. Okay, me too. To be determined if there would be a continuing game for the Lakers and Minnesota. Marami nagdadasal dyan. Kami rin nagdadasal para manalo. Manalo sana ng LA para marami pa kaming maibato ng mga comments. And of course, Houston versus Golden State. Alright.
Yeah, Golden State versus Houston, abangan ko yan. May pakiramdam ako na mag-overtime na naman tayo.
Parang tayo ngayong umagang gabi.
Ako, tingin ko mananalo yung Golden State eh. Pero aabang ako Wolves versus Lakers dahil kay Dino. Gusto ko malaman kung ano mangyayari. It's gonna be war. It's gonna be passing of the baton. LeBron to Ant-Man or Luka Doncic will win the game. We don't know. It's a must-see TV.
Alright, and that's the energy. Kaya sa mga nanonood, don't just watch the games. Be part of the conversation. Visit nyo ang sportsplus.ph for more updates on all things sports.
At syempre, follow nyo din kami sa socials, sa Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and
Join the convo, drop your takes, at baka ikaw pa ang ma-feature sa next episode. So see you this Friday, same time, 6:30 p.m.
Teka, dapat sabay-sabay tayo sa closing. Okay, big plays, real talk, at masayang kwentuhan. Ganito dapat ang sports show. Easy lang. Visa spin. Sabay-sabay tayo. 1, 2, 3. SportsPlus Insider! Oh. Hindi ba?
He's down for the count. He shoots.
White Travel steps back into the game. What kind of impact can he make? And what a steal! That layup's gonna even up the game. E9 in the final moments of the game. Can they make magic? White Travel wins the game!
Win the game. Easy long with SportsPlus.
White Travel steps back into the game. What kind of impact can he make? And what a steal! That layup's gonna even up the game. E9 in the final moments of the game. Can they make magic? White Travel wins the game!
Win the game. Easy long with SportsPlus.
White Travel steps back into the game. What kind of impact can he make? And what a steal! That layup's gonna even up the game. E9 in the final moments of the game. Can they make magic? White Travel wins the game!
Win the game. Easy long with SportsPlus.
White Travel steps back into the game. What kind of impact can he make? And what a steal! That layup's gonna even up the game. E9 in the final moments of the game. Can they make magic? White Travel wins the game!
Win the game. Easy long with SportsPlus.